Have you ever been alone in the woods, with no cell signal, no one around for miles, and only the sound of your own heartbeat echoing in your ears? The forest has a way of swallowing things: light, sound, people. In the dark, the trees whisper secrets, and sometimes those secrets whisper back. Tonight, I'm going to share with you 3 creepy real alone in the woods horror stories. These aren't legends. These aren't campfire tales. These are true, terrifying accounts from people who went in, but didn't all come out the same. Story 1. The Trail Marker. It started as a solo hike through the Catskills. Dan, an avid backpacker in his early 30s, set out on a 2-day trek to reconnect with nature, unwind, and clear his head. He brought all the essentials: tent, knife, bear spray, emergency radio. The first day went smoothly. The air smelled of damp moss and pine. The sun filtered golden through the canopy, and their only sounds were the soft crunch of leaves under his boots and the occasional cry of a hawk above. That night, he set up camp by a stream. The sound of rushing water soothed him, and the chill of early autumn brushed his skin. He fell asleep fast, but woke up freezing. The fire was out, and something felt off. He could hear twigs snapping around his tent, not animals, too rhythmic, like footsteps circling. He froze, breathing shallow. And then, silence. Morning came. Nothing was out of place. Maybe it was a dream. He packed and hit the trail again. But within an hour, he noticed something strange. A red piece of cloth tied to a tree. He didn't recall it being there before. Maybe another hiker. Odd, but not alarming. Another mile. Another red cloth. This one tied lower, closer to eye level. Almost like a marker, or a trail, leading somewhere. Dan began to feel watched. The birds had gone quiet. The air was still, heavy. He quickened his pace, and then he saw it. A third red cloth, tied in a perfect bow. He hadn't seen another hiker all day. He turned off the main trail, cutting through brush, heading toward a ranger station shown on his map. That's when the woods began to feel unfamiliar, like they were closing in. Trees twisted at wrong angles. The smell changed. Earthy rot, like something had died nearby. He stumbled onto a clearing, and there, nailed to a tree, was a crude wooden sign. One word, burned into the grain: stay. No footprints, no trails, just that word. Dan bolted. He ran until he collapsed, gasping, bleeding from brambles. When he finally made it to the ranger station, they told him something that made his blood run cold. That section of the forest, abandoned, closed off for years. No marked trails, no campsites. And those red cloths. Rangers never use red. To this day, Dan won't hike alone. He keeps the wooden stay sign nailed above his bed as a reminder. Would you have followed the red trail or obeyed the warning? Story 2. The Whispering Grove. Elena had just gone through a brutal breakup and decided to take a weekend to herself in a remote cabin her aunt owned in northern Oregon. No neighbors for miles, just endless trees, fresh air, and silence. The first night was peaceful. She lit a fire, sipped wine, and journaled by candlelight. But around midnight, she heard something. A whisper, faint, like someone talking through a wall. Only, the nearest house was 15 miles away. She froze, listened. It was coming from outside. She turned off the lights and peered through the curtain. Nothing. The next morning, she chalked it up to wind, or maybe the wine. She explored the surrounding woods, beautiful, dense. But halfway through her walk, she found a circle of trees unlike the rest. Their trunks twisted upward unnaturally, and at the center was a massive stone, carved with strange symbols. She touched it. It was warm. That night, the whispering returned, closer, louder, her name being spoken. Elena. She turned on every light, stared out the window, and then something knocked. 3 soft knocks at the back door. She moved slowly through the cabin, knife in hand, opened the door a crack. Nothing. But on the porch, a wet handprint, small, childlike, even though it hadn't rained. The next day, she hiked out to find the stone again, but it was gone. The grove too. Only thick woods now. That night, the whispers didn't wait until midnight. They began at dusk. Whispers from every direction, laughing, crying, chanting. She tried calling for help, no signal. Tried driving out, but her tires had been slashed. All 4. That night, she didn't sleep. And when dawn came, she found something carved into her bedroom wall. She touched the stone. Elena was found 2 days later, wandering barefoot on the side of a logging road. Dazed, incoherent. She's never spoken about what happened, but she never went back to that cabin, and no one has found the grove since. What would you have done when the knocking began? Would you have opened the door? Story 3. Eyes in the Fog. Ben and Lisa were driving cross-country, taking the scenic route through Washington State. Late one evening, they pulled off the highway to camp in a free-use forest area. No other cars, no signs of recent activity. They set up their tent under a towering cedar. The fog rolled in heavy that night, blanketing everything in thick white. Around 2 a.m., Ben woke up. Lisa was still asleep. He needed to pee, so he stepped out of the tent with a flashlight. The air was freezing. Every breath steamed. The silence was unnatural, like the world was holding its breath. As he finished and turned to head back, his light caught something in the fog. Eyes, reflective, low to the ground, maybe a coyote. But then they rose, 5 feet, 6 feet, taller. They didn't blink, just stared. Ben backed up slowly, no movement. But then a sound, like footsteps squishing through mud. And then another pair of eyes appeared, then another. He whispered Lisa's name. She stirred. He told her to stay in the tent, not to move. The eyes circled them, just beyond the tree line, never blinking, never breaking gaze. Lisa turned off the lantern, complete darkness. And then everything went silent. No wind, no insects, no breath, just silence. And then came the sound, a whistle, slow, hollow, repeating, like someone imitating a bird call, but wrong. They stayed in the tent until morning, clutching each other, not sleeping a second. When the sun finally rose, they packed and ran. Before leaving, Ben looked back one last time. On the tent, written in dirt, were 4 words: "We see you too." They reported the incident. Rangers searched the area, found nothing, no footprints, no signs of wildlife. But the ranger did say one thing: people who camp there sometimes go missing. You were lucky. Ben doesn't camp anymore. Would you have gone outside when you saw the eyes? Would you have answered the whistle? The woods are beautiful, peaceful, healing. But when night falls, they become something else. A world that doesn't belong to us. A world that watches, waits, whispers. These stories, they're not just warnings. They're reminders. Never go into the woods alone. Because sometimes you come back changed. And sometimes you don't come back at all.